Hi, welcome to my next video on Azure fundamentals. Here we are going to see section virtual machines again. We are going to see 20 questions with answers and explanations. First question, your company has virtual machine hosted in Microsoft Azure. The VMs are located in single Azure virtual network named VNet1. The company has users that work remotely. The remote workers require access to VMs on VNet1. You need to provide access for the remote workers. What should you do? Option C. Option A. Configure site-to-site VPN. Option B. Configure VNet to VNet VPN. Option C. Configure point-to-site VPN. Option D. Configure direct access to Windows Server 2012 server VM. The right answer for this question is option C. Let's see the reason. Point-to-site point-to-site PS2 VPN is the right answer because it is a gateway connection that lets you to create a secure connection to your virtual network from individual client computer, and that's why this option is rightly selected. Next question. Your company developers intend to deploy large number of virtual machines on a weekly basis. They will also removing these virtual machines during the same week it was deployed. 60% of the virtual machines have Windows Server 2016 installed, while other 40% has Ubuntu Linux installed. You are required to make sure that the administrative effort needed for this process is reduced by employing a suitable Azure service. The suggested solution was you recommend to use Azure Dev Test Labs. Does the solution meet the goal? Is it yes or no? The right answer is yes. Let's see the reason. Azure Dev Test Labs is a service offered by Microsoft through their Azure Cloud Computing Platform. It allows developers to quickly create virtual machines and other resources for development and testing purposes. It also provides features for managing and monitoring these resources, including the ability to set policies for automatic shutdown and cost management. And that's why option A is correct. Next question. Your company developers intend to develop large number of custom VMs on weekly basis. They also be removing virtual machines during the same week it was deployed. 60% of the VMs have Windows 2016 installed, while the other 40% has Ubuntu Linux installed. You are required to make sure that administrative effort needed for this process is reduced by employing suitable Azure service. The suggested solution was you recommend to use Azure reserved VM instances. Does that meet the goal? Is it yes or no? The right answer for this question is no. Let's see the reason. Azure reserved VMs instances are a cost saving options for customers who want to commit to using specific VM size for 1 or 3 year term. By committing to longer term, customers can receive a significant discount compared to pay as you go pricing. The reservation applies to VM instances in a specific Azure region and can be applied to VMs in any availability zone within that region. And so option B is correct. Next question. Your company developers intend to deploy large number of VMs on weekly basis. They will also be removing these VMs on the same week it was deployed. 60% of the VMs have Windows Server 2016 installed, while the other 40% has Ubuntu Linux installed. You are required to make sure that administrative effort needed for this process is reduced by employing suitable Azure service. The suggested solution was you recommend the use of Microsoft Managed Desktop. Does the solution meet the goal? Is it yes or no? The right answer for this question is no. Let's see the reason. Azure Reserved Microsoft Managed Desktop, that's otherwise called as MMD, is a service offered by Microsoft that to provide businesses with fully managed solution for deploying, managing, and securing Windows 10 devices only. It's not Windows Server 2016. SMMD is not for Windows Server 2016 or for Ubuntu, and that's why the option B is correct. Next question, you are tasked with deploying critical line of business application, which will be installed on a virtual machine to Azure. You are informed that the application deployment strategy should allow for a guaranteed availability of 99.99%. You need to make sure that the strategy requires as little virtual machines and scalability zones as available. The suggested solution was you include two virtual machine and one availability zone in your strategy. Does that meet your goal? Is it yes or no? The right option is no. Let's see the reason. You need multiple availability zones, two or more, and if possible in different Azure region that will meet the goal, and that's why the option B is selected. Next question, your company is planning to migrate all their virtual machines to Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. The VMs are currently hosted on Hyper-V host in a data center. You are required to make sure that the intended Azure solution uses correct expenditure model. The suggested solution was you should recommend the use of scalable expenditure model. Does the solution meet the goal? Is it yes or no? The right answer for this question is no. Let's see the reason. Pay as you go comes under operational expenditure model, and so option B is selected. Next question, your company is planning to migrate all their VMs to a pay as you go model. The virtual machines are currently hosted on Hyper-V host in a data center. You are required to make sure that the intended Azure solution uses the correct expenditure model. You should expand the use of elastic expenditure model. Does that meet the goal? Is it yes or no? The right answer for this question is no. Let's see the reason. Pay as you go comes under operational expenditure model. It is nothing to do with the elastic expenditure model, and so option B is correct. Next question, you are tasked with deploying Azure VMs for your company. You need to make use of appropriate cloud deployment solution. You should make use of platform as a service. Does that meet the goal? Is it yes or no? The right answer for this question is no. Let's see the reason. Azure VMs are under the category of infrastructure as a service, and so option B is correct. Next, you are tasked with deploying Azure VMs for your company. You need to make use of appropriate cloud deployment solution. The suggested solution was you should make use of software as a service. Does the solution meet the goal? Is it yes or no? The right answer for this question is no. Again, similar to the previous question answer, it is Azure Visual Machines are under the category of infrastructure as service, and so option B is the correct. Next question, you want to deploy a virtual machine scale set to Azure. Could you deploy the scale set using Azure command line interface? That is CLI. Is it yes or no? The right answer for this question is yes. You can use CLI. Let's see the reason. Azure command line interface, otherwise called as CLI, is a set of open source cross platform commands for managing Azure resources from command line. It can be used to create, manage, and delete resources on Azure, as well as other tasks such as scaling and updating resources. And it can be used to deploy a VM scale set to Azure. So option A is the right answer. Next question, let us suppose you have an Azure environment and you are required to create a new Azure virtual machine from Android phone or laptop. The suggested solution was, in this case, you use Bash on Azure Cloud Shell. Does the suggested solution meet the desired goal? Option A, no, the solution does not meet the goal. Option B, yes, the solution meet the desired goal. The right answer for this question is option A. Let's see the reason. Android does not natively use Bash in Azure Cloud Shell. However, you can use Android device to access Azure Cloud Shell through the web browser such as Google Chrome. This will give you a web-based interface to Bash command line environment in Azure Cloud Shell, where you can use and run Azure CLI command and other tools. And so option A is the right answer. Next question, let us suppose your team of developers plan to deploy and then remove 50 customized VMs each week. The 30 of the virtual machines run Windows Server 2016 and the remaining 20 of the VMs run Ubuntu Linux. Now you are required to recommend a solution. What is it? Is it Microsoft Managed Desktop or Azure VM Scale Set or Azure Dev Test Labs or Azure Reserved VM instances? The right answer for this question is option C, that is Azure Dev Test Labs. So let's see the reason for selection of this option. Azure Dev Test Labs is a service offered by Microsoft through Azure Cloud Computing Platform. It allows developers to quickly create virtual machines and other resources for deployment and testing, and that it can be used for testing purpose. It also provides features for managing and monitoring these resources, including the ability to set policies for automatic shutdown and cost management. And that's why option C is the correct answer. Next question. An IT engineer need to create a VM in Azure. Currently, the IT engineer has an Android OS based workstation. Which of the following can be the IT engineer can use to create a desired VM machine in Azure? Is it Azure Power Apps or Azure Cloud Shell or Azure PowerShell or Azure CLI? The right answer for this question is Azure Cloud Shell. Let's see the reason. Azure Cloud Shell is a browser-based command line interface provided by Azure. It allows users to access command line environment on the Azure portal and to provide a way to manage Azure resources directly from the browser. Azure Cloud Shell include support for Windows PowerShell, Bash, and Azure CLI. As far as on the Android, Cloud Shell is accessible from any device with a web browser, including Android smartphones and tablets. You can access Azure Cloud Shell on the browser of your Android device by visiting https://shell.azure.com. And so option B is the right answer. Next question, true or false? When naming a VM, the computer name and the VM name can be different. The right answer for this question is true. Let's see the reason. Virtual machine name and computer host name shall be different. They won't conflict with each other in any of the operational process. And so option A is the right answer. Next question, Dash led you to create and manage a group of identical load balancer VMs. Option A, VM scale set. Option B, load balancer. Option C, availability set. The right answer for this question is option A, that is VM scale set. Let's see the reason. Azure VM scale set lets you to create and manage a group of identical load balancer VMs. The number of VMs can automatically increase or decrease in response to demand or a defined schedule. And so option A, that's VM scale set, is the right answer. Next question, all Azure virtual machine have at least dash number of disk. Is it 1 or 2 or 3? The right answer for this question is option 2. That is a right answer. That's option B is the right answer. Let's see the reason behind selecting this option. All Azure VM have at least two disks. One for operating system of the disk and the other one is used for temporary disk. Next question, Azure Virtual Desktop is a IaaS or PaaS or SaaS? The right answer for this question is PaaS. Let's see the reason. Azure Visual Desktop is a platform as a service. It's managed by Microsoft that allows administrators to configure, deploy, and manage a scalable and flexible virtual desktop solution. Please note that just virtual machine is an example for infrastructure as a service. Next question, true or false? Azure Virtual Machine primarily support for 64-bit operating system and most of the Azure provider VM images are based on 64-bit operating system. Is it true or false? The right answer for this question is true, that is option A. Let's see the reason. Azure VMs primarily support 64-bit operating system and most of the Azure VM images are based on 64-bit OS only. However, Azure VMs also support for 32-bit OS, but they are not as common compared to 64-bit operating system. Some examples of 32-bit operating system that are supported on Azure VMs include Windows Server 2008 Release 2, Windows Server 7, and various Linux distributions. Next question, which among the following VM type is used for in-memory analytics operation? Option A, general purpose VM. Option B, compute memory VMs. Option C, memory optimized VM. Option D, storage optimized VM. The right answer for this question is memory optimized VMs. Let's see the reason why we selected this option. Optimized VM have a higher memory to CPU ratio compared to other VM types, which allows them to handle more memory intensive workloads such as data analytics. And so option C is the correct answer. Next question, true or false? Tracking software and their versions inside VM is considered as one of a bottleneck in VM management. Is it true or false? The right answer for this question is true. Let's see the reason. The VMs can have any software or applications installed in it, and there are multiple number of versions can also be running using the guest OS whatever they have, and so it will be difficult and a challenging task to get to know about what are the versions of the software as well the application running on the VMs. With that, I end up today's discussion. Thank you very much, and I hope this video is helpful to you. If that's so, please go ahead and subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell, and it will be helpful for you whenever I post a new video. You will be notified on that. And as said earlier, this is not the end of the session. We are going to continue a new section tomorrow with a new set of 20 questions with answers and explanation. Till then, stay safe and bye now.